All right, hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of Brotherly Love in the District. A little bit of a scheduling conflict again, but we are back. Tristan here, along with Jacob, and Jacob's going to go ahead and tell you guys what we're going to get into.
Yeah, so into the NFL, we're on the divisional round is finished up, so I'm going to be talking about that as well as the upcoming conference championships for the Commanders. Some more news in terms of the offensive coordinator as well as the selling of the team. Going on into hockey, just going to be talking about how our teams have been playing recently, and then I do not believe there's any news in baseball.
I believe you're correct. Let's start off just talking about the Commanders, as that's going to be less of a news heavy segment going, I guess would be the proper way to say it. But go ahead, and I know they were talking, there was a sale about eBay. They had it listed at 6.8 billion for the team, and no one put a bid down on it.
I've heard they've gotten a few bids around there. News just released today that Jeff Bezos may sell the Washington Post in order to buy the Washington Commanders. So I think that's the most likely route things are going to go. In terms of the offensive coordinator, we've been apparently interviewing a lot of guys like the Dolphins running back coach Eric Studsville. But the biggest concern about it is that a lot of candidates may be a little turned off because of the unproven quarterback and the situation with obviously the new owner. And unless Rivera puts in a playoff run this year, then he's going to be gone. So I think that's going to weigh heavily on whoever fills that job.
Do you think they'll change the name again when it sells?
I want them to, and I think it's likely because I think the next owner is going to try and get rid of the whole Dan Snyder stink, and that's part of it, frankly, because a lot of legends and a lot of fans have really criticized it. People like John Riggins have said they hated the name. They have really didn't like it, and a few others came out and said they didn't like it. So I personally would like to see a new name change because I just think will finally get past that whole Dan Snyder thing, and then we could finally start to make some progress forward.
If just Jeff Bezos buys the team, how much money are we putting down that it becomes the Washington boxes? Washington packages.
If that happens, I'm a Steelers fan.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think there's still a lot up in the air with the whole selling the team thing. Also, with the stadium needing to be built, is
Yeah,
that on the new owner? Is Dan Snyder going to
that'd be
do
on
that
the
before
new
he leaves?
owner,
Like,
and I think if we were to get a new owner, then RFK that site will open back up because I think the city of DC first it was the name, then they moved it towards the whole allegations, and this won't happen. But say Dan Schneider stays as the leader somehow. They're not going to move into DC because unless there's a change, they're not going to be going back into DC. So once there's a new owner, I think talks will begin to open again because the RFK site is government property, so they would need to be given permission to work on that. And if we were to get a new owner like Bezos, who's very friendly with that government, then I think it'll the whole process will start. It'll probably take like 3 to 4 years because you have to think you have to destroy RFK. You have to completely destroy that, which it's going to be a sad day for a lot of Washington fans because there's some great memories. But and then you have to start to the design process. You have to bring in architects, engineers. Then you have to start the design process. So it'd probably be a good 4 years, I'd say, that whole process. And I think it'd be just in time for the lease on FedEx to be up. And I did hear rumor about FedEx that it could possibly be turned into a state of the art like practice facility. So they may still use it. I just don't think it'll be used as their main stadium in 5 years.
uh, and I mean, with the new designs, I mean, you're seeing nice stadiums be built like SoFi, Allegiant, NRG up in Minnesota.
The
So I
only
mean, you're seeing.
problem is that the site isn't going to be as big as those. So what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to work with a smaller site, but give fans a reason to go to that stadium. So if Amazon's involved, then I think it'll be a very technologically advanced stadium for a smaller size. So it won't be like a Jerry's World size or a SoFi size, but I think they're going to try and cram as much stuff as they can into that small space. Like the stadium be probably around the same size as RFK.
So that's really all that's going on in Washington with that whole thing. Going on to the playoffs, obviously, since we missed a week, we missed wild card weekend, uh, but the Eagles did not play. But a couple big things did happen. Obviously, Jaguars come back down from 27-0. Doug Peterson leads them through that. Trevor Lawrence goes from 4 picks in the first half to 4 touchdowns in the second half to lead them to the win, along with a game-winning field goal, which was insane. And did you see what Joey Bosa said to the media, where he was?
Yeah, we actually talked about this on our YouTube when we did our predictions, so go check that out. But basically, from what I understand from what you said, is that he thinks that the refs are a little biased against him because he's so big and so strong, and he thinks that the refs are kind of
Yeah,
calling,
he's like, yeah,
calling penalties that
we have to
not
respect
calling
them.
penalties.
We have to respect them, but if they blow a call that ruins an entire team's season, then they
Mhm.
probably just go in the back and like, haha, we got him. But if I say something wrong to him, then I get a $40,000 fine. He was dropping f bombs left and right. He was not happy. He was very angry. I believe he got ejected from that game. So he
Yeah.
uh, there was good reason for him to be mad. But I'm interested to see if he gets disciplined by whether it's the league, the team, something, because he came out. It's not often you see a player just go at the refs like that completely. So I'm really interested to see that what's going to happen with him. Obviously, a really good player, but still got a big name attached to him. So
Yeah.
you kind of got to behave yourself there.
Even with like questionable like refing decisions, like the Terry McLaurin thing when he asked the ref if he's good, he said yes, but still got the penalty called. Even McLaurin, he said that he thought it was a bad call, but he didn't go as far as Bosa did, which I think is interesting.
And then I'd say the other big headline that I think we is the only other big one that we really need to talk about is Dallas ends Tampa's season, which looks like it could potentially end Tom Brady's time in Tampa. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes this offseason. Him and Aaron Rodgers are both in the boat of deciding if they still want to play. I know Aaron Rodgers has been thinking about it. He's going off for a while by himself to just kind of chill. And if you watch the Pat McAfee show, he said he's going to be watching whales out in the Pacific. So he's kind of just chilling right now, just seeing how he feels not playing football for a while. And then Tom Brady, I mean, he's got spots like the Jets could be going back to New England, Las Vegas, San Fran. There's
Yeah,
a
I think
lot of
Las Vegas is the most likely spot. Depending on what happens with San Fran, I could see that too. But considering what's happening with Brock Purdy, I'm not entirely sure anymore. I know he was a 49ers fan growing up, and that's one of the reasons he'd possibly want to go there. But I don't think Brady's done. He will be playing next season. It's just a matter of for who.
I don't think he's done either. I think he's going to play again. I mean, there's still a chance he goes back to Tampa. I think he likes it there, but
Mm,
I think Tampa's kind of at the point where they're kind of ready to move on. He's
yeah, and
that he didn't play
considering
great this season.
the whole Bruce Arians thing, they just fired Byron Leftwich. I think it's done there.
Uh, I think Vegas is a good landing spot for him. You got to remember though, his family is still on the East Coast, which might play a factor in his decision on where to go. Because I mean, he's at that point where, like, when he was going through the divorce, Tampa was so understanding about everything. If he needed to go off to, do whatever, the team let him go. He needed to go up north to go see his family or whatever. They let him go. They were really understanding about his whole situation. So I know Tampa has a very high respect for him. Obviously, greatest quarterback of all time. Any team's going to have a high respect for him. But I think Las Vegas would be a really good landing spot for him because they have talent out there. They have Devontae Adams. They have Josh Jacobs. They have Hunter Renfro. Like, they have some good receivers out there, some good running backs. And Darren Waller. I think that'd be a good landing spot for him because at his age, all he wants to do is win. He doesn't really care
Yeah.
about the money anymore. He just wants to get another ring. So, uh, it'd be interesting to see what happens there, but they get smoked by the Cowboys, who, leading into the divisional, come back out and get smoked by the 49ers. I wouldn't really say
Yeah.
smoked, but
They laid an egg. Their their defense played great, but the 49ers defense just played better. Simple as that.
yeah, I mean, it was a good game. I expected it to be a decent game. Brock Purdy played decent under uh, the pressure that he was at,
Yeah,
but
he did what he needed to do in the situations he needed to.
I'll tell you what, I'm feeling a lot more confident. Obviously, Eagles beat the Giants. I'm feeling a lot more confident about this game, seeing that when you have a top five defense and you can shut down some of their weapons, Brock Purdy isn't the same guy that he is playing not great defenses. So it gives me a little more confidence.
Yeah, that's a good point, but on the other hand, you will have to deal with their defense, and it's shown that it can not only get turnovers, but it can shut down the run. It can shut down the pass. So that's another thing that I think you need to look for. I will say I'm not as confident as I was in the 49ers. I think it'll be a close game, regardless of which way it goes, because I just don't see either team getting blown out because I just think the Eagles have too good of a roster to just lay an egg, and I think the 49ers have too good of a roster as well. And like they've obviously been there before. This is their third NFC championship they've been to in the last 4 years, which is something that you need to take into account. And Kyle Shanahan has proved that he's been there before, he's done it. So, yeah, I see this being a very close game.
When was their third?
Remember
Oh,
when
they
made
went
the
last year.
Super
That's
Bowl?
right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, made it last year. No, this
I
year.
was trying to think of what it was last year, but yeah, I think either way it's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
Obviously Eagles came out, torched the Giants, made the Giants look a little rough out there. They definitely did not look like a playoff team when
No.
the Eagles went out and played them. Kenny Gainwell with 112 yards rushing, Miles Sanders with another 90 himself. They ran all over them. They couldn't do anything to stop them. Their pass game was also super big. Devontae Smith led with 68 yards receiving, but
61.
61.
Yeah.
I knew it was in the 60s. But they overall they really hit all the cylinders really well. So they looked like a complete team, which is something that they're going to need to do against the 49ers. And this is what I said they need to do against the Giants. They got to a point where they shut down the Giants' run so quickly because they got down. The Giants got down 14-0 after the first two drives, which really takes away their
force
run
them into
game.
a high-scoring game.
So if you have to, you got to force the other team to pass. And if the Eagles can do that and not be on that end of being forced to pass, I think it'll be a good game. I think it's going to be a good game overall. These are easily the most two complete rosters in the NFL, even over the Chiefs and the Bengals. Bengals obviously have a terrible offensive line, ton of injuries
and
up there.
Defense kind of stinks.
Yeah, Chiefs defense is a bend don't break defense, not very good. So these are easily the two most complete rosters. It's going to be a really fun game to watch, that's for sure. But NFC Championship next weekend, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah. I will say you guys did a very good job against the Giants. I thought it'd be a little closer, but like you said, they got out 14 points, and that's what you need to do with a team like that. Force them to really try and move into a high-scoring offense, which they're not. So you did a great job with that. You didn't pass a lot, but when you did, you got the yards you needed. Devontae Smith, he averaged 10 yards a catch. Dallas Goedert, 11.6. A.J. Brown, 7.3. So those are good numbers. You obviously were able to run the ball extremely well. Kenneth Gainwell, 112 yards, averaging 9.3. Miles Sanders, 90 on 5.3. Jalen Hurts, 34 on 9 carries. Boston Scott, 6 carries, 32 yards, averaging
And a
5.3.
touchdown. You can't forget Boston Scott's touchdown. He's the giant killer.
So you've shown again that your offense is very versatile, and you've shown that your defense is good enough to hold up against pro clubs.
You know what? This is something that not many people watch because obviously when you're a typical fan, you're watching for the passes, the running, the big plays. But I'll tell you what, if you really watch football, this is going to be a good line game, like good trenches game, because the Eagles and the 49ers both have top 3 offensive lines in the league and top 3 defensive lines in the league. Eagles obviously finished with four players over 10 sacks this season, first team to do it in NFL history. 75 total sacks, including that last Giants game that they just played in the playoffs. They had 70 in the regular season, so it's going to be a game of who can get to the quarterback quicker and make him uncomfortable, which is where
Yeah.
I think the Eagles have a slight edge in two spots, in my opinion. I think it's the ability that they, I think they can rattle Brock Purdy quicker than I think Jalen Hurts will get rattled. Obviously, Jalen Hurts has been in the league longer. He's had a little bit more experience. He had a
I think it's
really
due to mobility.
he also has that
Yeah.
mobility. The 49ers haven't faced a running quarterback yet. So I'm interested to see how they work with trying to contain him, because trying to contain a quarterback and just collapsing the pocket are two totally different things.
Yeah.
So that's
Collapsing
a
the
whole
pocket isn't always the best idea.
yeah, that's a whole another part of the game to it. So I think that's a slight advantage. And also, I think another big piece of it is I like the Eagles receivers against the 49ers secondary a little bit more than I like the San Fran wide receivers against the Eagles secondary.
Um,
I mean, don't get me wrong, the 49ers have a really good receiving core. Debo, Brandon Ayuk,
yeah.
George Kittle, even Jawan Jennings comes up big every once in a while. Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell will probably have really big receiving games.
Yeah,
We don't have the
I
fastest
think that's your
linebackers.
that once you finish, I'm gonna go more into that, but I think that's gonna be your biggest
But
problem. Going on into what you said about the wide receivers, I can see that, but I mean, it's been shown that players like McLaurin have been able to beat Darius Slay, so it's not like they're invincible. But I will agree that they have a better
I
secondary.
think that's what I'm saying is like the Eagles, just looking at it as a whole, I think their
Yeah,
secondary is slightly better than the 49ers secondary. The secondary for the 49ers has a couple holes in it. Nothing to
yeah,
scoff at, they're still a really good team defensively, top defense in the league by far, but
hmm
they definitely have some holes that if they can expose, then they're going to make the Eagles can definitely work with that and potentially win the game off of
yeah.
that.
And I
And
think,
like you said, the linebackers also playing a big role because Christian
yeah,
McCaffrey is a quick
I
speedster.
Yeah, I think the linebackers of the 49ers are going to be able to help with the mobile quarterback thing. And I think that's the biggest hole in your defense is the linebackers. If um if the 49ers are able to get over the middle, if I think Kittle could be a very big problem for you guys because he's one of the best tight ends in the league, and who would be on him as a tight end? So I think that's going to be a problem if the 49ers are able to get through that initial defensive line, then I could see some problems because I just don't think you have the linebackers that the 49ers do. And I think I trust the coaching staff of the 49ers a little bit more than I trust the Eagles coaching staff. So
Now,
that,
that I will agree, Jonathan Gannon has a tendency to kind of sit back in a shell coverage, which that scares
yeah,
me a little bit that he might not call the best game. Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni, I don't know exactly who calls what plays there, but obviously
yeah,
they've been working well. But first off, I don't think the Eagles linebackers get enough respect. Don't get me wrong, they're not your household names. You
yeah.
probably can't even name the two Eagles linebackers right now.
Nope.
Exactly. So they're not household names, but they are good linebackers. They're solid linebackers. Kaiser White will probably do more of the pass coverage, as when he was at West Virginia, he was a safety, so he's got a little bit more speed to him. TJ Edwards is a downhill runner, but I'll tell you what, you compare him to Fred Warner and I believe it's Drake Greenlaw, they are no match. Those are easily the two best linebackers in the league. So comparing them to the 49ers linebackers, there's no shot the Eagles even come close with their linebacking core. But overall, the Eagles do have solid linebackers. So it's going to be a good game. I believe Sirianni is a really good coach from what we've seen over the past couple of seasons. But I'm excited. I am a little bit nervous. Right now, Eagles are favored to win the game by 2.5. So there's a
I can understand that.
yeah, but overall, it's going to be a close one. I'm excited for it. That's for sure. Uh, who do you have coming from the AFC? We'll just talk about that real quick because that's
Um,
obviously
I have the Bengals. Because I just think they look so good against the Bills. They were able to shut it down. They were able to just impose their will on a Bills team that you thought were going to be playing better because they're in Buffalo. It's snowing, but Joe
Damar
Burrow
Hamlin
was
came back.
Yeah, but Joe Burrow was still just able to throw the ball all over the Bills when he needed to.
Have you seen that video of him in warm-ups where he throws it and spins around? That
Hmm.
that might be, if that ball was a dot, which you can't see because he steps in front of it so you can't see, but if that ball was a dot, that might be one of the nastiest videos on the internet.
Yeah, and I think like one reason I said the Bengals is because Mahomes' ankle. I know he
Yeah,
was still
that's
able to
huge.
play good against the Jags, but it was still a close game. And against the Bengals, I'm not entirely sure how that's going to play out because the Bengals are going to see that, and it's not the nicest tactic in the world, but they're going to look at that as a possible weakness. They're going to want to get him moving, and I think that could play a factor.
The Bengals also have a sneaky good pass rush. Sam
Yeah,
Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson are both really good pass rushers. And then obviously Mahomes, him having the mobility is what makes him such a dangerous quarterback. Don't get me wrong, his arm strength and playmaking ability are huge, but the fact that
it
he
can
can,
get him in
yeah,
trouble.
he gets out of the pocket and he starts playing that backyard style football, that's what helps them win. So him, they're probably going to shoot his ankle up with so many numbing agents and medicine and anything that they can do to make sure he doesn't feel pain during that game to keep him off. But the Bengals do look really good. I believe they might have the best receiving core in the league. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd.
Hmm.
That I'm not sure there's many teams that could really line up across from that and stop them. So it's going to be a good game. I want to see the Chiefs win. I don't really care who wins. It's going to be it's
I
going to
would
be a good game.
prefer the Bengals, but I really don't care all that much.
Yeah, I don't really care. I just want to see a good game. Uh, that's all I that's all I've really thought about these past couple of weeks is just give me good games. Because with the Eagles
And
going, I'm like I don't care who they play. I just want them to win. So
yeah, fair
that
enough.
yeah,
With Mahomes' ankle, is it his right ankle or is it his left?
I believe it's his right.
Okay, so then like when he drops back, he's going to be on that the entire game. So, and ankle injuries, especially for a quarterback when you're using that to plant and all that stuff, that's not going to go away. Whether
Yeah,
it's your plant foot or your drop foot. So,
you saw it. Even if did you watch the game?
yeah,
Did you see when he threw the screen and was trying to favor that other leg because he couldn't put his entire weight
yeah,
on
and
it?
yeah, that's not good, and that's not going to go away because ankle injuries just they don't really go away like that unless you have the proper time to heal it, and he doesn't, and he's going to be on his feet the entire game. And if he wants to win, he's going to have to move around the pocket. And one reason I chose the Bengals over the Chiefs, I trust the Bengals defense a little more than I trust the Chiefs. Because I mean, I know we got cooked last season, but Eli Apple was having a good game against Stephon Diggs, so credit to him. So that's another reason why I chose the Bengals.
It's a good football week, that is for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, going. Is there anything else in the NFL you wanted to add?
That's all I got.
That's all I really have. Is we're coming up on a close to the NFL season. It's getting. I'm missing it. I was saying earlier I wanted to come home and just watch football, but we don't have
Yeah.
football. First time in a while on a Monday night we haven't had football. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's. I'm definitely. We have 3 weeks, 3 more weeks to enjoy it, and then it's gone for 8 months.
Yeah.
It's
I
gonna be
mean, some
rough.
interesting things are going to be able to keep me over for a little bit, like as
Free
far as the
agency,
owner thing. But
the owners, yeah.
yeah, but once you get to like early, like summer, I think that's when you really start to miss it.
The and the coaching hires.
Yeah.
I want to see where D'Amico Ryan's goes if he goes anywhere. Because I heard he might want to stay in San Fran for another year. So it's gonna be I'm gonna be interested to see where he goes. But with that, that's gonna close it out for football. We're gonna finish up here with hockey. Um, and the Flyers had righted the ship for a little bit. They had won 7 of their last 8. They got back to 500. They beat the Caps twice in a home to home. They got and Travis Konechny had a hat trick in one game. He ended up losing a 10 game point streak and a streak of 8 games. having at least 2 points, but they look decent, and now they're kind of just stuck in limbo.
Yeah.
They've been losing one, winning one, losing one, winning one constantly. I actually think I will have to double check this real quick, but I actually think they might have lost their first 2 games back to back for the first time these past 2 nights. But I mean they're kind of stuck in limbo. They're not far out of a playoff spot, and I'm pretty sure in the locker room, they're thinking we're not too far off. We could potentially make a playoff spot here, and they're going to be going for that. So I think that's kind of starting to work their way into their minds that they might have a chance at getting into a playoff spot and maybe trying to make a run in the playoffs, even if it's not much.
That's all I can hope for. Onto the Caps, we've kind of leveled out from that great run we've had. Ovi wasn't he was going through something. He didn't play against the Golden Knights, and we just forgot what to do. We are still 4th in the Metro, but we're 4-5-1 in our last 10, which is a little worrying. And I think I'm not sure I entirely trust Peter Laviolette's coaching anymore. I'm really questioning some of his decisions. For example, that Caps game you went to, Dylan Strome was a healthy scratch. There is no reason on this earth Dylan Strome should be a healthy scratch and Lars Eller should be on the ice. Plain simple, period. Dylan Strome has been our best center this year, whether in terms of defense or points or just the way he plays. He's been better than every single center we've had. So there's absolutely no reason he should have been a healthy scratch. And I think one thing that's holding this team back is the coaching. I think no matter what, I would like to see a new coach. Being realistic, I don't think we're going to be a cup contender. So Bruce Boudreau was recently fired from the Canucks, which I think is a bullcrap situation, and a lot of other people think that as well. I think it'd be cool to see Bruce back because the players love him. He was on the Washington broadcast for a little bit, like the local one before he got the Canucks job. So I'd be completely fine with that, and especially if it's just Ovi going for the record. I know Backstrom loves him. Ovechkin loves him because going back way back when, yes, he may not have had the playoff success, but he really was able to transform that team. He put the young players in, and in the 2010s, we have the best regular season record of all the teams, period. If you look at that period,
they had a lot of
record.
They had a lot of President's Trophy seasons.
We had 3 President's Trophies, I think, in that whole period. So I would like to see Bruce back because I just think I'm at my wit's end with Laviolette. The talent's there, but I'm not sure the coaching is.
Going back to the Flyers real quick. Since those games that they played against the Caps, they have been going back to back. After that Caps game, they went to play Boston, lost 6-0, obviously best team in the league. They are insane right now. 36-5-4. But then they beat the Ducks, lost to the Blackhawks, beat the Red Wings, lost to the Jets, and they play the Kings tomorrow. So they're going back and forth right now. They're kind of stuck in limbo, like I said, but they're 20-20-7, and that puts them at Hockey 500 for the first time since earlier in the season, probably around 15-ish games, 15, 20 games. So they're making progress, which is what you want to see. You're seeing young guys start to play. Kevin Hayes has started to step up. And it seems like since Kevin Hayes got that healthy scratch situation, because it looks like him and Tortorella have been kind of going back and forth over the season. They haven't really been agreeing. Yeah. But since that healthy scratch, it feels like the team is locked in more, and they're producing more offensively. Noah Cates, a younger guy who was having trouble scoring, he's scored a couple goals since then, and he's been on the score sheet a couple times. Morgan Frost is looking like he's got more skill than ever. Did you see that between the legs, top shelf, right on the goal line?
No.
He was next to the goalie, and he put it between his legs and top shelved it over the goalie's shoulder. So, I mean, he put himself in a skillful situation there. He looks good. So, I mean, overall, the team looks like they're making a good effort. And I would not be mad if they made a slight, just even got into the playoffs. I'd be happy. It was just like the Eagles last year. Like, yes, they may not win a game or win a series, but they are, it's just the the factor
It
of
builds
getting
momentum for the next
experience.
season. It
Yeah,
builds confidence.
I mean, yeah, Jalen Hurts in his first playoff game in the NFL got smoked by Tom Brady. And he
Hmm.
comes out and then he smokes the Giants this season. So it's just the fact of having the experience and meshing together in the playoffs, especially when a lot of this team is going to be around for the future. It's a lot of young players. As long as John Tortorella believes that they're useful to the team, which from what I've been seeing, I feel like a lot of these players are going to be able to stick around, except for maybe JVR. I'm interested to see what happens with Hayes because he's on a big contract, but it seems like
Yeah.
him and Tortorella are butting heads a little bit. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens with him. But Konechny, Hart, Provorov, uh, they got a lot of young pieces that I feel like are going to be here for a while. So just getting that experience and kind of having that bonding time, I think would help them in the long run. Whether they lose the series, win a game, win no games, I think it'll help them out.
Yeah, I said at the beginning of the season that the very top end for this team is a wild card spot, and I think it could do wonders. For this team going into football, Joe Gibbs' first year here, they started out crap, but were able to end the season good. Because you guys, if you started the season kind of bad, if you're able to end the season on a high note, you can build momentum into the next season. For Washington, the next season after Joe Gibbs' first year, we won a Super Bowl. The year after that, we were the best team in the league up until the Super Bowl. So not saying it's going to turn you into a championship team, but it could help you guys build confidence and it could finally propel some of these players that you've been saying, when are they going to take the next step? When are they going to take the next step? It could propel them to actually finally do that. So I think that it's a reality for the Flyers because if you're looking at the Metro, it's still pretty close. Let me
We're
pull
only
it up.
four points out of a wild card spot right now.
Yeah,
The
and if you look at us and the Penguins,
and
we're
the Islanders are on a 4-game losing streak.
yeah. The Caps were 4-5-1 in our last 10. The Penguins are 4-4-2. Islanders 2-5-3.
Oh, we're actually 7 points out of a wild card spot. I thought for some reason I was looking at the Islanders as the second wild card spot because I don't have the wild card standings. I just have the standings in general, so I have to look at all. I have to go back and
That's
forth. So they're actually 7 points out of a wild card spot.
that's still not a huge gap. It's very possible, and with Tortorella, I think he's going to be able to push those players to possibly do that.
And they
Even if you
still
don't get in, I think it's a big step forward for the team.
it's they also still have the All-Star break coming up.
Yep.
The turning point for the team so far has been the Christmas break. They went on that and they came back, and since then, since the Christmas break, they haven't lost back-to-back games. So, and that was their big identity in the bubble season. After the All-Star break, they came back. They hadn't lost back-to-back games. Or no, it was since January, early January was the last time they had lost back-to-back games in that season. They came back. They wouldn't lose back-to-back. The first time they had lost back-to-back games was when they played the Islanders in the second round of the playoffs, which ultimately was their downfall. They lost that series in Game 7. But that's a good identity to have. You bounce back off of losses, which is what they've been doing. So they play the Kings tomorrow, like I said, and I do believe this is a fun team to watch. They're getting some young talent that actually looks good. So I'm interested to see what kind of happens coming up in the future.
And one quick thing, the Caps, before we wrap up. Darcy Kemper actually leads the league in shutouts. I don't know if you know that, but he's been having a good year. So is Lindgren for a backup. So I think our goalies have kind of really stepped up where our defense has fallen off and going into our forwards. I think both Mantha and possibly Eller this is their last year at the Caps because ever since Wilson came back, Mantha has been getting healthy scratches. Even a little bit before that, he's been getting healthy scratches. And even Wilson being back, 3 or 4 games, has put more energy into the game than Mantha has the entire year. I just think that the team's kind of at the end with him. Like he's still just lackadaisical. It always feels like he could be putting in more effort. So I will like to see a little bit of a cull of those players in the offseason. I'm not back to the point where I was saying John Carlson should be traded, but he should be on a hot seat. So that's a few more things for the Caps.
Yeah, dude. Since I went to that game, I just don't know what to do with this ugly thing. My goodness. Right now it's just sitting on my desk collecting dust. Probably
Beautiful.
probably the best thing it'll do in its life. But uh but with that, we are going to close it out there. If you guys want to check out our podcast weekly on Spotify and Apple, you can also rate and review us on Apple and Spotify. We post big news and signings and trades on our Instagram and TikTok at BL in the DC on this side of the screen. And then also, if you guys want to email questions or comments to put in here, blinthedc@gmail.com. And we do weekly predictions coming up on the end of it for the NFL on YouTube. Brotherly Love in the District. So with that, we are going to end it off there, and we will see you guys next week.
See you later.